Our lead story tonight, well, unexpected high retail inflation numbers coming as a shock to the government and consumers. What's the impact? Priyanshi has the latest.
Well, Sonia, it is a significant and concerning jump in the retail inflation rate. In fact, well above economists expected. The figure has jumped to 6.5% in January from 5.7% in December 2022. Now, with this, the inflation rate has crossed the Reserve Bank's comfort level of 6% after 2 months, as you can see in that graph on your screen. Now, inflation has risen after falling for 2 months straight, and now it has in fact risen well above estimates. It's now at the highest level since October 2022, when the rate was at 6.8%. Now, there's another important trend to note here. Rural inflation is above urban inflation for the 8th straight month. So, rural inflation is at 6.8%, while urban inflation is at 6%. So, rural India is battling with a higher price rise than urban India is. Now, a question is, what's really driving the inflation rate? Food prices. Food inflation jumped to 5.9% in January from 4.2% in December. So the prices of essentials such as cereals, eggs have risen the most. Now let's look at which states really have the highest inflation among all states and union territories. Number one, it's Telangana at 8.6%. Second, it's Andhra Pradesh at 8.3%. Third, it's Madhya Pradesh at 8.1%. Now, the states with the lowest inflation rate are Chhattisgarh at 2.9%, Delhi at 3.3%, and Himachal Pradesh at 3.4%. Now, the inflation figure raises many fears for the government, policymakers, and the Reserve Bank of India. Experts had predicted that there might be a pause in the Reserve Bank's rate hikes for a few months now, since inflation was estimated to be on a downward trend. But now, with a rise in the rate, there's a fear that the Reserve Bank might go for more rate hikes to control inflation, Sonia.
Right, Priyanshi, thanks for that. That impact also coming in the markets and a decline in the rupee as well, looking ahead at what were expected to be concerning inflation figures. Thanks, Priyanshi, for that update. Meanwhile, in other news, Asia's largest air show took off in Bengaluru today. The Prime Minister inaugurated it with saying the focus is on making indigenous defense weapons and equipment, making the point that India's defense exports will rise to $5 billion by 2024-25.
The largest air show in Asia, Aero India 2023, kicking off with the Indian Air Force Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chowdhury personally leading a formation of Made in India Tejas fighters. Aero India is all about showcasing Indian aviation, military and civilian, with exports now increasingly becoming a key focus.
दशकों से सबसे बड़ा डिफेंस इंपोर्टर था, वो अब दुनिया के 75 देशों को डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है। बीते 5 वर्षों में देश का निर्यात 6 गुना बढ़ा है। 2021-22 में हमने अब तक के रिकॉर्ड 1.5 बिलियन डॉलर से ज्यादा के एक्सपोर्ट को, उस आंकड़ों को हमने पार कर लिया है। हम इसे अभी केवल एक शुरुआत मानते हैं। हमारा लक्ष्य है कि 2024-25 तक हम एक्सपोर्ट के इस आंकड़े को 1.5 बिलियन से बढ़ाकर 5 बिलियन डॉलर तक ले जाएंगे।
The light combat helicopter Prachand, recently inducted into the Indian Air Force, was another highlight of day one at Aero India. Indian aerospace goes global. 809 companies are showcasing India's aerospace capabilities. There are 32 defense ministers around the world attending. The government expects MOUs worth 75,000 crore to be inked by the time Aero India concludes in 5 days.
We want to be at your side as you go on this exciting journey. Look, I used to live here. I used to live here in 1999, and I've come back and I've gone to the village that I saw. This country has moved so fast, and it has this can-do spirit, and this, it's like this hunger for the future. It's restless for change, and I find it very inspiring being here. I think this is an incredible country, and I want my country to be at your side and working with you as you go on this great journey.
A major participant, as always, the United States, showcased the stealth F-35 fighters. In addition to F-16 and F-18, America is hoping to win orders in India for both F-16 and F-18 in multi-billion-dollar deals.
The F-18 is still in contention with the Indian Navy. We brought our F-18 out to India at Hansa Airfield last October and went through extensive testing with the Indian Navy. The Indian Navy has done all of their evaluation on the fighter program and sent that forward for the government for consideration, to my understanding. And we think that the F-18 still represents a great choice for India.
Underscoring the importance of Aero India taking place in Karnataka and pushing for Make in India policy, India has been insisting manufacturers to manufacture their parts, especially like Boeing, Airbus and Lockheed Martin right here in the country. In the next 5 days, we're going to see where 809 companies, 98 countries taking part in Aero India, trying to showcase their defense capabilities. In Bengaluru with Kumar, Shraddha MS for NDTV.
And the Prime Minister in Bengaluru also met with key film stars, startup founders, ex-cricketers and this online comedian. He met with superstars of Karnataka, Yash and Rishabh, along with many others. You can see him here, the Zerodha co-founder as well, who tweeted that at 72, I hope I have the same energy like the Prime Minister. But also what's interesting was him meeting young comedian Shraddha, who is famous for her Aiyyo videos. And she tweeted that apparently the Prime Minister, when he met her, said Aiyyo as well. The other big international headlines: the United States has now shot down a fourth unidentified flying object, the third in 3 days. It's still not clear exactly what these objects are. The first few were Chinese spy balloons, but now the top US general in charge of defending North American airspace said he's not ruling out anything. Vishnu has the latest.
The already unreal story of US forces shooting down unidentified flying objects became even more bizarre, with the United States announcing that it's downed yet another object yesterday, the third in 3 days. Now, this has been described in the latest incident as an octagonal-shaped object flying over Lake Huron on the US-Canada border when it was shot down by a US Air Force F-16. For now, the top US general handling this isn't ruling out anything about its origin.
This is for General Van Herk. Because you still haven't been able to tell us what these things are that we are shooting out of the sky, that raises the question, have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials, and if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Helene. I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything at this point. We continue to assess every threat.
There have been 4 shoot-downs this month at these locations. Only one of the 4 flying objects have been identified. On the 4th of February, a Chinese drone was shot down off South Carolina. On Friday the 10th, a second object described as a car-shaped object was shot down over North Alaska. On Saturday, a third object was shot down by a fighter jet over the Yukon Territory in Canada. And now this latest incident over Lake Huron on the 12th of February.
First of all, the safety of Canadians is our #1 priority, and that's why I made the decision to shoot down the object that was a threat to civil aviation and a potential threat to Canadians. There's still much to know about it. That's why the analysis of this object is going to be very important. But you can know that this is something that NORAD and Canada and the United States are taking extremely seriously, and we will continue to keep people informed as we know more.
So is this all a part of a larger Chinese espionage program using extremely advanced drones and balloons? It could be, but no one seems to know for sure. Beyond the February 4th shoot-down, the only one of 4 incidents where video is available. The white contrail you see in this amateur video of the 4th of February is the US F-22 fighter racing towards the Chinese balloon. Moments later, a second contrail is visible. That's a Sidewinder missile, which then brings down the balloon. What is worrying for India is that a balloon that looked very similar to the one you just saw being shot down was visible over Port Blair in January last year. Local Andaman and Nicobar Island Facebook news groups showed this image. Now compare it with an image of the balloon shot down by the United States on the 4th of February. They appear very similar. What is known is that China operates the world's largest fleet of drones. There are literally dozens of types of drones, balloons and airships that it deploys, ranging from small drones the size of the palm of your hand to even this ultra high altitude drones like the one you see here, designed to fly at very high altitudes near space and powered by solar energy. These can loiter for weeks over an area, providing persistent cover of an area that China wants to look at very closely. But for now, there is no clarity, none, on what the second, third and fourth objects to be shot down actually were. Were these spy drones, or is there a larger mystery here on extraterrestrial involvement? Sounds unreal to even be saying it. But China now, for its part, says the US has been violating its airspace on 10 occasions with its own balloons.
Vishnu, the unanswered questions there. Thanks so much for that update. But let's shift our focus now to our constant coverage from Turkey and Syria, where NDTV reporters are, but also the amazing miracle stories coming out of there, which is of this woman being pulled out alive after 7.5 days. So that really is something which is an absolute miracle. This woman coming out absolutely alive. She, of course, has suffered injuries, but she is safe and stable at the moment. This also coming after the story of this young baby who was pulled out just yesterday. He's fine. He just had lunch. And look at him smiling there. Really a miracle baby. He's now been discharged from hospital. Unfortunately, his parents are still missing, but this little baby has survived. Meanwhile, Tanushree Pandey reports from Turkey on how people are now fleeing the country. They're crowding airports because of the lack of relief and rehabilitation.
Last week on the same day, Turkey and Syria were devastated by a 7.8 magnitude earthquake. And even after 7 days, both the countries are struggling to get back to normalcy. We visited the relief camps and it's overflowing with survivors, including pregnant women, infants, children and even old people. And the worst sufferers are women and children, because right now on the ground there is acute shortage of food, water, heating equipment and even warm clothes, because the temperature here in Turkey is extremely harsh. But the survivors are telling us that they are struggling to keep themselves alive. And many people, many hundreds of in fact survivors are forced to live on the streets inside these camps which have been set up by them. And this is one of the most busiest streets of Turkey, of southeastern Turkey, which now lies desolate, as most of the families have lost their homes and they have shifted to the relief camps. But even the relief camps have become a luxury in Turkey because it's overflowing with survivors, and that's why many of the survivors have to live on the streets, making their own makeshift settlements. And these are mostly Syrian refugees who came to Turkey to take refuge after the Syrian war, and now they are forced to live with their children on the streets, on the footpaths, the pavements, as you can see.
Well, in other news, the centre today told the Supreme Court that they are ready for an expert committee after the fallout of the Hindenburg report on Adani Group shares. The court will decide the matter on Friday. The centre today told the Supreme Court that they are all right with the panel to review the current regulatory regime. However, the Solicitor General said that while the centre has no objection to a committee being formed, but we don't want a committee to undermine the regulatory process because of the impact this will have on international and domestic investors if the wrong message goes out. The centre said that SEBI is fully equipped to take care of the situation, as are other regulatory bodies. The court is currently hearing 2 PILs alleging the exploitation of innocent investors, and they listed the next hearing on Friday. The government will suggest the remit of the proposed committee. They also said that the names should be given in a sealed cover, which the Supreme Court hasn't agreed to yet. Rahul Gandhi's strong attack on the Prime Minister and allegations that he favoured the Adani Group was what dominated the headlines last week. But today, Rajasthan Chief Minister has defended the major investments by the Adani Group in his state, saying that while Rahul Gandhi spoke in Parliament, investments like those of the Adani Group are needed for jobs.
कांग्रेस पार्टी राहुल गांधी जी जो हिंडनबर्ग की रिपोर्ट आई है अडानी समूह को लेकर के उसको जनता के बीच में भी और संसद में भी एक बड़ा मुद्दा बनाए हुए हैं। वो जेपीसी की मांग कर रहे हैं। अडानी समूह ने राजस्थान में भी एक बहुत बड़ा निवेश किया है, 65,000 करोड़ से ज्यादा का निवेश किया है। और आपकी जाहिर सी बात एक मुख्यमंत्री हैं, आप मिलते भी रहते होंगे, तो आप इसको कैसे बताएंगे? क्योंकि बीजेपी ये कह रही है कि आप गहलोत साहब से पूछो या दूसरे जो कांग्रेस के शासित राज्य हैं वहां भी अडानी का इन्वेस्टमेंट है। इस पर आप क्या कहेंगे?
देखिए, इसका जवाब राहुल गांधी जी ने खुद ने दे दिया। अगर कोई इन्वेस्ट करना चाहता है किसी राज्य में तो वहाँ की सरकार मना कैसे करेगी? इन्वेस्टमेंट जाएगा, आएगा तो उसी से रोजगार मिलेगा, आर्थिक विकास होगा। तो राहुल गांधी जी ने खुद ने इस बात का जवाब दे दिया है। ठीक है, ये भी कोई विवाद के अंदर भी नहीं है। बाकी जो कुछ भी हो रहा है पार्लियामेंट के अंदर या पार्लियामेंट बाहर, वो तो विपक्ष का क्या धर्म है, वो धर्म निभा रहे हैं वो लोग। हम सब धर्म निभा रहे हैं, उसको तो निभाना भी चाहिए। और बाकी अब तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट सुनवाई करने लग गया है, तो सब जुडिशरी मामला है। ये चुनाव जीतने के हथकंडे जो हैं बीजेपी के, वो सबके सामने हैं। इस बार मैं इनकी हथकंडों को चलने नहीं दूंगा। मैंने तय कर लिया, प्रधान पब्लिक जानती है कि मैं एक सेवक हूँ। मैं कोई मुख्यमंत्री तो एक पद है मेरे पास, पर मैं प्रथम सेवक के रूप में काम करता हूँ। मेरी एक एक सांस के अंदर राजस्थान में विकास, राजस्थान के लोगों के सुख दुख की घड़ी में मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, वो मैंने बचपन से सीखा है।
Moving now to other news, and this really is an extremely serious issue. The stories of the deaths, the suicides by 2 young students in 2 days, both of them engineering students. But also, this is India's most prestigious engineering college, IIT-Bombay, and a young 18-year-old student who just died, who just joined there a few months ago, died by suicide jumping off the 7th floor of his hostel. Students here are protesting, asking why is it that there isn't enough infrastructure or support measures for young students, especially those who come from scheduled caste backgrounds.
A candlelight march by students at IIT-Bombay on Sunday evening, after the death of an 18-year-old first-year student Darshan Solanki, who allegedly jumped to his death from the 7th floor of his hostel at 1:30 in the afternoon. Just 3 months ago, Darshan from Ahmedabad joined the BTech course in chemical engineering. Institute director Subhashish Chaudhary said in a note to students, Powai police is investigating the case. The parents of the student have been informed and they are on their way. With the first end semester exams getting over on Saturday, there is speculation on whether academic pressure pushed him to take the extreme step. A student group, Ambedkar Periyar Phule Study Circle at IIT Bombay, however, allege that his death is linked to his caste, claiming first-year students face the most harassment in terms of anti-reservation sentiments and taunts of non-deserving and non-meritorious. There is a lack of representation of faculty and counsellors from the marginalized. Neither the police nor IIT has reacted yet to these allegations. At IIT RK Valley in Andhra Pradesh, 22-year-old Akhila was found dead in her hostel room on Monday. The final year engineering student was the daughter of a labourer working in Kuwait. No suicide note has been found. The police are investigating the trigger for the extreme step. What is common between the tragic deaths at IIT Powai and IIT RK Valley is that they came from very marginalized sections and had made it to the top educational institutions with a lot of dreams and hope. Whether they felt caste oppression, inability to deal with stress or academic pressure, what is obvious is that there is need for counselling and reach out to these very vulnerable youngsters. With Sohit Mishra in Mumbai, in Hyderabad with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.